What's going on, guys? It's Yogi or Garrett or whatever you want to call me. Just call me. I'm filling in for Chandler again today, hoping to make a good video that will get some good information out there to the real estate community. So one of the current themes that Chandler and I have mentioned a lot on previous videos is how much Idaho has appreciated over just the last couple of years. And here's a graph that was just posted, or a chart, a map of the United States. And it again shows Idaho as one of the top appreciation states. If you looked at it as a percentage, it would be the top appreciation state in the entire world, in the entire United States. So Idaho has been white hot. And as an investor, that's hard. Because you look at a property, a duplex or a single family home rental, or maybe a fourplex, and I kind of know, like, hey, 3 or 4 years ago, this would have sold for X amount, and today it's selling for this. And I actually have a friend who's under contract on a home that he's gonna live in. And I was talking to the agent yesterday. It's an agent-owned property. And the agent goes, we're under contract at $300,000 even. And the agent goes, dude, do you know what I bought that for? And I'm like, I don't even wanna know, man. Don't tell me. And he's like, I paid $117 for that just 4 years ago. And I don't think he really did any work. The market's just gone like this, which is awesome for home values and home appreciation, but it can make getting the same cash on cash return and things like that really difficult. So, James, you have a wasp on you. Free pest control here. Mr. Miyagi-san. Oh, scared it off. It saw me coming. One of the hot topics in our investing group right now is looking at purchasing out of state. Looking at, kind of identifying a new market and starting to buy some rentals there, just because they'll be so much cheaper and the potential to cash flow could be higher. So today I wanted to kind of dive into the pros of investing out of state, what it looks like, why it can be such a good thing, and also some of the cons to investing out of state and what you should watch out for, what you should make sure you're aware of, and kind of some of the things like that before you make any crazy wild decisions in a place that is 1,000 miles away from you. So with all that said, let's jump into it. So it's funny because as an Idahoan, we're always giving people from California kind of a hard time because Californians buy in Idaho. We've got investors that buy here. I made a video a couple years ago buying from a guy who lives in California, and now I'm an Idahoan talking about investing in other markets. So one of the biggest reasons that people look at investing in other markets is the difference in purchase price, and included with that is the difference in property taxes, insurance, things like that. I have a special guest, a featured guest that we're gonna hop on a Zoom call with. This is a guy who owns a couple properties out of state. It's a friend of mine who I've sold pest control with for 3 or 4 years, so it's another one of the active sales reps, one of the best ones. He was one of our top team leaders this last year. And his name's Jackson. We're gonna hop on a Zoom with him right now. Jackson, since about June of this year, has purchased 5 properties all the way out in the Carolinas. And he's really secretive about it. He won't tell us exactly what market it is because he doesn't want all of us to go snatch it up. But Jackson has said he would kind of answer some questions and give his experience on how it's gone investing out of state. And because he's a local guy here, he's an Idahoan as well who lives here in Idaho Falls. And so I figured we'd kind of pick his brain and get some good tips from him and then kind of analyze everything. So let's go hop on that Zoom call. This is my good friend, Dane Jackson Watkins, or as we call him, Jack. He is the man, he is the myth, and he is the legend. Jackson and I lived together one summer out in Portland and Seattle selling pest control just 2 short years ago. So I know him a little bit too well, and he knows me a lot too well. So one of my best friends and one of the best real estate investors I know. So thanks for being on the channel, Jack.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a real honor to be on Chandler's YouTube. I remember when we had the inception of the Chandler YouTube.
Yeah, we all made fun of him for it, and now look at him.
We did. It's cool, man. Now we're a part of it, so it's
It is
awesome.
cool. So Jackson's at school right now. He's a full-time student studying pre-med, and so hence the Zoom call. He's a busy guy, but Jackson has bought 5 doors, I guess, 2 properties, 5 doors, just within the last, 5 or 6 months, and a lot of those, or I guess 3 of those, really within the last couple of weeks. And so he is crushing the real estate game. And when I thought about making this video, Jackson was the first guy I thought of because he's, born and raised here in Idaho Falls, just like myself, just like Chandler. But he's found this little gold mine of a market out in Jackson. I warned everybody that you wouldn't disclose the exact, GPS coordinates, but out in the Carolinas somewhere, out there in Outer Banks. And you've been crushing it. So it's a duplex and a triplex, right?
Yeah, so I got a duplex that I closed on the middle of August, and then at the end of September, closed on the triplex. So it's been like 5 doors in 5 weeks. So a door a week. I've been trying to keep up with that. I'm actually, no one knows this, I'm actually under contract on a fourplex right now. Me and my friend, one of my good friends from my mission, we're actually going in on it together. So we're splitting everything. So we're under contract on that. So if that keeps up, it'll be 9 doors in 9 weeks. So we're hoping for that. So it's been
Good for you, man. That's incredible. That's exciting news about the fourplex. So something that's been fun to see is Jackson scale so quickly, and part of that is the purchase price you're getting these at. So I just went under contract on a duplex today here in Idaho Falls. Guess what my purchase price is? It's a little bit nicer. It's not on the crazy high end, but take a wild guess.
270.
315, dude. Yeah, it's a big daddy purchase price.
It's insane.
So what did you get your duplex at?
So my duplex that I got, the first one was, I don't know if I'll ever find a better deal. I might. I hope that I do, but it was $63K. So it was like insanely cheap. And of course, it's not going to be super nice, but it's not. I'm going to put a little money into the bathroom, but other than that, I don't think I'm going to have to put in too much money into it. It was fairly turnkey. So it is sat for a good minute on the MLS. And I think because the tenants didn't want the pictures of the inside to be on there, it didn't have a lot of curb appeal. So kind of people strayed away from it. So when I was down in Florida during the summer, I was close to it. So I was just checking things out. And then I saw it on Zillow and reached out. And then I learned a little bit about it. And I was like, why has no one bought this? It must be too good to be true. But then I got the inspection, and the inspection wasn't that bad. So I was like, it just kind of fell into my lap. So I was super excited. It was for only 63 grand. It didn't take a whole lot of money to get into it.
Yeah, 25% down. That's like 15 grand on your down payment, which is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So current rents are at $1,270 before I raise them. Shout out to the Red Bull. Yeah, current rents are at $1,270, and then my mortgage is like, with taxes, insurance, and my management fee and everything, I'm in like $375 is my monthly obligation.
Wow.
So it's a really good cash flow for the little amount of money that I had to use to get into it. So I hope I find a deal that good, a cash on cash that good again, but I don't know if it will. I hope I do. But it's
yeah,
awesome.
Kudos, man. You won't find that around here right now. That's absolutely incredible. 63K. You said you're renting it at $1,270. I don't even need to plug the numbers in. That's a grand slam, is what that is. Good for you.
That's awesome. Thanks.
You can't even find land around here for that much right now, and Idaho's historically not an expensive market. It's somewhere that people have moved because it's been affordable. But I mentioned in a brief intro before this that, in the last 2 or 3 years, these affordable homes have really doubled and even tripled in price. And so that's kind of what we've been going through. The triplex, what did you pay for that guy?
So the triplex was a little bit more. The triplex I got for $154. Cool. I just closed like a week ago, but it's definitely a lot bigger. It's a lot nicer. It's like a fairly big house. It's like 2,500 square feet. And then there's just a separate like mother-in-law apartment, that's unit C. So I actually never even saw this one in person.
Wow.
When I was driving home from Florida, I took the long route so I could go through the Carolinas and see some other properties that I was interested in looking at that I'd been seeing on the MLS for a little bit. The beautiful thing is things sit for a while there. They don't go above asking out on the first day they're listed, which is awesome. So you have time and there's not as much pressure. But I drove through, I checked out like 3 or 4 properties with the realtor who sold me the first house, who's also the property manager. And I can talk a little bit about that, how I found that in a second. But I was driving through, I checked out a couple of places. And then the day after I had checked out those places, this triplex popped up and I knew that I wanted it. So it's not like, and there's like certain pros and cons with doing this out of state, but it's not a rule of mine that I have to see a property in person before I buy it. That's pretty unrealistic. Plus, I'm never going to be living there myself. So as long as it passes, the inspection, I really don't care that much what it looks like. I mostly care what street it's on, what neighborhood it's in, what the rents are like, what, the vacancy's been like in the past, all those types of things. So I've never even seen a property, and all I had to go off was the pictures on the MLS, but it was listed for 159. I wasn't able to get as much off it as I like because I put him out for like the day that it had been listed, but I got it for 154. Insurance on that one, since it's a little bit older home, they call it a historic home. It's a little bit more expensive. My premium's like $1,500, unfortunately, but rents are over 1,800. My payments are somewhere in the 800. So it's still a really good buy in my opinion.
You've picked up 5 units really quick, and these other 4 are going to be awesome. So that you excuse me, you brought up one of the main questions I wanted to ask, and one of the things that I figured people would want to know about, and that's, how did you find the real estate agent? Kind of what was your process and thoughts there, and then the property manager. And it sounds like you found a guy who can kind of do both for you, which is probably ideal because you can build that relationship with him. But what was kind of your process with that?
So my process started honestly a year ago when Idaho was just exploding, and I was just sad because I was sad. Number one, I'm from here, and it was sad to see the prices go up so much. It's hard for people to live here who are from here because the jobs don't pay enough to, sustain the housing price. But what made me even more sad was I couldn't buy deals that I thought were good. You could, but it was a lot.
Yeah, you got to put $75,000 down on a duplex. That's tough.
Yeah, and because I am a 1099 because of Aptiv, you write stuff off your taxes, and
I
write stuff off. So it's been hard. It's been historically hard for me to get approved. Part of the reason I've been able to buy all these properties so fast is because I've kept cash, because I haven't spent it, because I haven't been able to buy properties in Idaho because it's been harder for me to get approved. So I've just been looking for a year nonchalantly at different markets in the US where it's cheap, but there's still a big need for rent. People still rent, and there's not going to be a big problem with vacancy. Obviously the scariest thing is buying a place that's not going to rent. So that was and really, I think right now the Southeast US is the best market. I could be wrong. Nowhere in the West will compare. And I don't know what the Northeast is like. I imagine it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Midwest is good, maybe second. But I think excluding Florida and maybe parts of Florida, I think the Southeast right now, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, I think those are probably the best markets right now. So that's where I've been looking. And just being in Florida, working for Aptiv during the summer, I was in that proximity. And so I started to look more intently and just doing research on how properties have appreciated, which is not historically good for the Southeast. So all the properties that I've bought and that I'll continue to buy, I definitely mostly look for cash flow. I think they're projected to do a 6% increase in 2022. So nowhere near Idaho, and not that good, which is a risk for sure, because I can't get it out from underneath myself probably as fast as I'd like. If I needed to, I hopefully won't have to ever, but that's definitely not something that I'm super concerned about, is the appreciation. I'm mostly looking for cash flow. But anyways, I had found the Carolinas, and I had found this couple of counties in that I just had seen that I looked up Facebook and Zillow at the rental markets and seen that there's like no rentals, and then rentals that I had been watching for like a couple of days when they'd pop up would be gone in a couple of days. So they were renting really fast. I was seeing the prices and I'm like, dang, like these rent prices are fairly high compared to what the purchase prices of these houses are. But that's kind of where I settled in on those like 3 counties. And then when I had really, the summer was starting to come to a close and I was getting ready to leave, I was like, yeah, I need to find a place. So I'd found those ones on the MLS and copped them up. And then, yeah, it's been really good. So basically I just studied different states and the different markets to what, where the purchase price was really low still, but there was still a big need for rent. I don't know why. It's honestly kind of sad why everybody rents there. I don't know. I don't know why people don't buy, because their mortgages would be way cheaper than the rents. Maybe they can't get qualified. I don't know, but it's unfortunate, but it's an investor gold mine. So I think I'm excited about it. And I think I originally thought no one would ever, at least from our group of real estate friends, I thought no one would touch it. I could be wrong. I thought everyone was going to be a little bit too scared to invest out of state, but I think everyone has the same problem I have, where it's super expensive. It can be hard to get approved. So it's the way to go. So hopefully, yes, hopefully no, people join me over there. But I think it's a good market, and there's way better deals to be had in terms of 1 to 4 units than there are in Idaho.
Jackson brings up an interesting point with a lot of those things. Getting approved, you kind of talked about that with your 1099 here at Aptive. One of the things he can do over there is, because he's getting so much in rents or in projected rents versus a small mortgage, he can use that income to qualify for a lot of these purchases, which you can do here as well, but our rents don't offset the mortgage nearly as much here. So that was one thought I had, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's helped a lot to be able to use the rents to qualify. And that's another thing, is it's cheap enough. Sorry to interrupt. It's cheap enough to where you can put 25% down and you can use the rents to help qualify. Whereas here, if you're buying a duplex for $315 and 25% down, it's a lot of money. It's hard for people to have that much money they can put into it. So they have to FHA or owner occupy in a way so that they don't have to put as much down, and then you can't use the rents to qualify. So it's tough.
No, you're exactly right. So another thought that I had, Jackson talked about appreciation, and I kind of showed this little map earlier. I don't know if Tanner can do this on a Zoom call, but it's a map of the United States, and Idaho's like, number 1 appreciation. California's right there as well. All of the western states, kind of like you say, have just seen crazy appreciation. And the Southeast, which is obviously where you're targeting. And it's kind of cool that you mention, the Southeast. My brother-in-law, Josh, I wanted to have him on this call too, but he had work. He has a real job, which makes it tough. But he's offered on 2 properties in Alabama right now. And so he's kind of had the same thought process. Nice. And he hasn't gotten either of them. It sounds like it's a little bit more competitive where he's looking, but same thoughts. So Idaho for a long time was similar, where we didn't really have much appreciation. If you look back 10, 15 years, home prices were not that different than they were 5 years ago. Like, stuff went up, but it was kind of a normal, 3 to 6 or 7% every year. I remember my childhood home, my parents bought it for $130,000, and it was 3,500 square feet, and it wasn't luxury by any means, but it also wasn't terrible. And we lived there for 15 years. And 15 years later, it only sold for, they ended up getting just over 200. But 2 years prior, they had tried to sell it for like 175, and it didn't sell. So for, 12 to 15 years, it only went up by 40 grand. And they put a lot of money into it too. So it really didn't go up that much. But that same house, they sold it for 210 3 years ago. If they sold it today, it would probably sell for 400. So Idaho was kind of a similar market where it didn't have crazy appreciation for a long time, and then for whatever reason something happened and it just went rocket ship. So this market that you're buying in, you're getting crazy cash flow right now, but who knows, you know, you might sit on these for 10 or 15 years and maybe the same thing will happen where you do get that. I talked to Meet Kevin about it when he went on one of our team leader trips, and he calls it catch-up appreciation. Like maybe these Carolina and these southeastern markets will get some catch-up appreciation in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, and you're doing well anyways. But if that happens, can you imagine? I mean, holy cow, all these properties are all of a sudden worth $300,000, and you're like, I did pretty well with that $15,000 down payment.
Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. You got to get in before it's too late.
Exactly. So Jay, I don't want to keep you for too long, but if you had like 3 tips for someone who was looking to, you know, start investing and maybe hoping to invest in a market that's a little bit more affordable or somewhere that's not local to them. You're really on the other side of the country. I mean, you're probably 2,000 miles from your rentals, but what would your top 3 tips be?
I haven't thought of that. Number 1, hopefully I can come up with 3. Number 1 would probably be, you've definitely just gotta dive in. Like, so I think a lot of people get obsessed about like finding the perfect deal, and sometimes a perfect deal doesn't exist, especially when you don't have a portfolio yet. I think a big thing, people just have to be willing to understand the risks and then just jump right in, because you're only gonna, you know, like you start out small and you've grown a lot, but your first deal was probably not your best deal. So it can be scary. And you probably watch these videos with Chandler where he's finding these insane deals, but it's like Chandler finds a lot of off-market deals and people come to Chandler. When you're just starting out and your best bet is literally like the internet and Zillow and Facebook, you just have to get what you can and then grow from that. You just have to dive in. The second thing I would say is you're going to want to find a really good property manager that understands and is totally okay with you being 100% hands off, where they know you're potentially never going to see the properties unless you make a trip out there. And they understand that they have to be the number one contact and the go-to contact for anything, because if the toilet is clogged or a window breaks or a branch falls on the roof or something, they need to be there and they need to be super responsive. So they need to be a good property manager who understands that they're kind of like the owner. And I think I found a really good one. I hope. Those would probably be my 2 pieces of advice. Is number 1, make sure you just go for it. And number 2, make sure you have a good property manager that understands, because there were some property managers that I was looking at that didn't really like the idea that I was never going to see the property, that I was never going to be there, and that I would have nothing to do with it. Like this triplex, I never have seen it and I may not ever see it. And they, you know, so they have to be there and have to be responsive to me when I need things. So those are probably the two biggest.
I love it. That's excellent advice. I think along with your second point, probably one of the most crucial things with that property manager, with that, you know, important person, is the trust factor. I would imagine this is someone you probably spent a pretty good amount of time on the phone with and kind of building a relationship. And find someone you can trust, because you are so far away. Man, it's got to be somebody you can rely on, who you know will do a good job and, you know, give you the actual invoice and be fair with all those things. So yeah. And then with your first thought, you kind of mentioned like people bring deals to Chandler. Like that's true, and everyone sees him buying these home runs right now and he's crushing it, and it's amazing and it's awesome and it's fun to be a part of. But Chandler doesn't have, you know, 20 hours to put into researching all these little niche markets like you did. So that's kind of the trade-off. When you're a new investor, you've got time and you've got energy. And so use that time and energy the same as you would capital to find, you know, something that works for you and something that you can, you know, be creative with and turn into a great deal, which I think is exactly what you've done, Jackson. And I talked about my little brother Andrew and his wife Sienna in a previous video, and how they're living in that unit and house hacking it. And, you know, that's something that Chandler can't do right now. He's not going to move into a 1-bedroom, 700 square foot house So use your time and energy to offset kind of the capital and the influence of these, you know, bigger investors, and that's exactly what you've done, which is awesome. So yeah, thanks for being on the channel, man. We'll link Jackson's Instagram in the, I don't know what you call that, the details section. Shoot Jackson a message, ask him about investing. If you're interested in Aptive, like I say, Jackson was one of our top team leaders this last year. He's one of the most talented salesmen I know, and he's a great guy to work with for both real estate and Aptive. So give him a holler, and thanks again for being on the channel, Jack. All right, guys. Hopefully that was some good content for you. I know it was a little bit out of the ordinary, where it was more like podcast interview style, but I figured that was a good way to hear kind of a different experience than what you're used to getting, and get some new information on maybe an idea that you haven't thought about or have thought about before. So investing out of state can be a great thing. If you're from some of these western states that have appreciated like crazy, you probably won't get the same kind of cash flow that Jackson's getting in those southeastern markets. And so if cash flow is your hot button, that's a really great option. Chandler and I have been discussing a lot, finding a market like that and trying to buy a really big deal that there's no way we could afford in Idaho, Utah, Colorado, kind of our surrounding area right here. So it's a great thing to do. Kind of like Jackson mentioned briefly at the end, you need to put in a lot of time researching the market and understanding the rental potential. You know, is this somewhere that you can rent and not have sit vacant for, you know, months and months and months? Is this somewhere that you can sell if you need to? Can you get out from under this property if that situation arose? And then, like I say, I think the thing that is most important to me, and we'll talk about this more in future videos because it's something that I need to figure out for myself. How do you find a property manager that you know is going to give you a 5-star experience, even if you're not there to hold him accountable? Someone that you can trust, someone that you can rely on. So that's probably the biggest thing for me, is finding someone who knows the market, who you for sure can rely on, because you're not going to be there, and it's not easy to hop on a plane and go check up on him and make sure that he's been transparent and done his job. So finding someone who will do that. And I think as technology has continued to improve, I mean, man, you could make your property manager do a FaceTime walkthrough of the property with you once a quarter if that's what you wanted to do. So there's a lot of options and ideas and things like that that will make investing, and have made investing in different markets, easier than it's ever been before. So hopefully this has been a good video for everybody. Make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. And thanks for watching, guys.